Jack Morrison stood at attention as the transport doors opened with a mechanical hiss. The bright lights of the USS Intrepid's main hangar bay made him squint. This was it, his new assignment. The famous Vanguard Squad. No one had told Jack that. He would be the only human. He stepped forward, duffel bag slung over his shoulder, and took in the scene before him. 6 aliens of different species stood in a perfect line. They were all taller than him, all stronger looking, all equipped with natural weapons that humans could only dream about. "Lieutenant Morrison reporting for duty," Jack said, his voice steady despite the cold stares. Commander Vexillar, a 7-foot-tall reptilian Zorvan with scales that shimmered between green and blue, stepped forward. His yellow eyes narrowed as he looked down at Jack. "The human diplomat has arrived," Vexillar announced to the others. His forked tongue flicked out between sharp teeth. "How fortunate for us." Jack kept his face neutral. He had been warned about this. Humans were new to the Galactic Confederation. Many species saw them as weak, primitive creatures who had stumbled onto faster-than-light travel before they were ready. "I'm a soldier, not a diplomat, Commander," Jack replied. This earned a round of noises that Jack guessed were laughs. The insectoid Cathal officer clicked her mandibles together rapidly. The glowing Belvari dimmed and brightened in pulses. "Follow me, human. Let's see if you can keep up." Vexillar turned sharply and marched away. Jack followed the squad through corridors filled with technology beyond Earth's current capabilities. Crew members of dozens of alien species turned to stare as they passed. Some looked curious. Most looked surprised or confused. They arrived at the squad's private training room. It was the size of a basketball court with various obstacle courses, weapon ranges, and simulation areas. "This is Sergeant Lyra." Vexillar pointed to the glowing blue-purple energy being contained in a special suit. "Our tactical specialist." The Belvari's voice came through a translator, sounding metallic but female. "Earth tactics are considered quaint. Perhaps you can show us how throwing rocks worked in your early wars?" More alien laughter. "This is Draz," Vexillar continued, gesturing to a bird-like creature with colorful feathers. "Communications and sensors." The young Quillian gave what might have been a respectful head bob. "I've studied some human languages. Fascinating how you communicate. With such limited vocal ranges." The introductions continued. Krav was a 4-armed weapons expert from a high-gravity world. Zell and Norva were twin Ceridians with telepathic abilities. And Trill was the Cathal scout who could move faster than human eyes could track. "And what is your specialty, Lieutenant Morrison?" Vexillar asked when they were done. "What unique ability do you bring to the galaxy's most elite fighting unit?" Jack met his gaze. "Adaptability." This brought the loudest round of alien laughter yet. "Adaptability," Vexillar repeated. "Well, you'll need it. Your presence here is a political courtesy following Earth's alliance agreement. Try not to die on your first mission." Jack spent the next 3 days learning squad protocols and training routines. He couldn't move as fast as Trill, couldn't lift as much as Krav, couldn't sense danger like the twins. But he watched. He learned. He saw patterns and problems that no one else seemed to notice. On the 4th day, during a tactical exercise, Jack spoke up. "The formation has a blind spot." The entire squad turned to stare at him. Sergeant Lyra floated closer. "Excuse me?" "This attack pattern," Jack pointed to the holographic display. "If the enemy counters with a flanking move here, no one has coverage of this sector." "Impossible," Vexillar said. "This formation has been battle-tested across 17 campaigns." "Against enemies who think like you do," Jack said. "But if I were leading the other side, that's where I'd hit you." The room went quiet. Then the alarm blared. "All combat personnel to stations. Pirate attack on Research Station Epsilon. Vanguard squad deploy immediately." They rushed to the armory. Jack was given standard-issue energy weapons, while his squad mates collected specialized gear that complemented their natural abilities. "Stay behind us, human," Vexillar ordered as they boarded the rapid deployment shuttle. "This is a real fight, not a training exercise." The shuttle launched and tore through space toward the research station. Through the viewport, Jack could see the sleek black ships of the pirates already docked at the station. Weapons fire flashed around the outer rings. Plan Gamma 6, Vexlar announced. Trill first for recon, Twins for minesweep, then the rest of us clear in standard formation. It was the exact formation Jack had questioned earlier. They docked and moved in. The station was in chaos. Bodies of researchers floated in sections where gravity had failed. Pirates in black armor were breaking into secure areas. The squad moved, like a well-oiled machine. Trill zipped ahead so fast she was just a blur. The twin Ceridians extended their senses, mentally mapping enemy positions. Krav laid down suppressing fire with all four arms wielding weapons. It was impressive. Until it wasn't. "Ambush right corridor," Jack shouted as he noticed a pattern in the pirate movements. But the squad was already executing their standard plan, moving directly into the trap. The pirates sprang out from hidden positions in exactly the spot Jack had identified as a weakness. Energy weapons fired. Krav took a hit to one of his arms. Trill was cut off from the group. Jack saw young Draz get separated from the others, 3 pirates closing in on him. Without hesitation, Jack broke formation. He sprinted down a side passage using the station layout he had memorized during the approach. He came out behind the pirates surrounding Draz. "Get down," Jack yelled. Draz dropped as Jack fired. His shots weren't as powerful as the others, but they were precisely placed. 2 pirates went down. The third turned toward Jack and fired. The blast caught Jack in the shoulder. Pain exploded through his body, but he didn't stop. He charged forward, tackling the pirate into a wall. They struggled, the alien stronger but surprised by Jack's continued fighting despite his wound. Jack slammed his weapon into the pirate's breathing apparatus. The pirate choked and collapsed. "Are you okay?" Jack asked Draz, gritting through the pain. The young Quillian's eyes were wide. "You're bleeding." Jack glanced at his shoulder. Red blood seeped through his torn uniform. "It's what we do. Come on, we need to regroup." Together they fought their way back to the squad, who had managed to repel the initial ambush but had taken damage. When the pirates finally retreated and the station was secured, Vexlar approached Jack in the medical bay. "You disobeyed direct orders," the commander said. "You broke formation." Jack looked up as the medic applied regenerative gel to his wound. "I saw a vulnerability, and I acted." "You saved Draz," Vexlar acknowledged. "But protocol exists for a reason." "With respect, Commander, sometimes protocols need to be adjusted." Vexlar studied Jack for a long moment. "You will face disciplinary action for your insubordination, Lieutenant. But perhaps we should discuss that blind spot you mentioned." As the commander walked away, Jack noticed Sergeant Lyra watching him from across the room. The Belvari's glow pulsed in a pattern Jack couldn't interpret. Curiosity, perhaps? For the first time since arriving, Jack allowed himself a small smile. It was a start. Jack sat alone in the mess hall of the USS Intrepid, picking at his food. It had been 3 days since the pirate attack on Research Station Epsilon. 3 days since he had broken formation to save Draz. The official reprimand was now in his file, but Jack didn't regret his actions. "May I join you, Lieutenant Morrison?" Jack looked up to see Sergeant Lyra hovering beside the table. The Belvari's energy form pulsed with soft blue light inside her containment suit. "Of course, Sergeant," Jack said, surprised. Lyra settled into the seat across from him. She didn't eat food like other species. Instead, her suit absorbed energy, directly from special charging stations around the ship. "I have been studying human military history," Lyra said. Her voice came through the translator with a metallic edge. "Your species has an unusual approach to warfare." Jack smiled slightly. "We make do with what we have. You lack natural weapons. You have no significant armor. Your senses are dull. Yet you dominated your planet, and now reach for the stars." Lyra's light pulsed faster. "It is a puzzle." Before Jack could respond, the rest of Vanguard Squad entered the mess hall. Draz spotted them and chirped excitedly, hurrying over with his tray. The others followed more slowly. "Lieutenant, I was hoping to find you," Draz said, his feathers ruffling. "I wanted to thank you again for the rescue." Krav, the four-armed weapons specialist, grunted as he sat down. "Lucky shot." Not luck, Jack said. I saw a weakness in the formation and exploited it. Any enemy would do the same. Commander Vexillar joined them last, his reptilian eyes fixed on Jack. You think our tactics are flawed, human? The table went quiet. Jack met Vexillar's gaze. Think all tactics can be improved, Jack replied carefully. The pirates almost outflanked us because they spotted the same gap I saw earlier. Vexillar's scales rippled. Then perhaps you should demonstrate your superior human approach. Tomorrow's training simulation. You will lead. Jack nodded once. Yes, sir. The next day, the entire squad assembled in the holographic training room. The space could create realistic battle scenarios for practice. Today's mission, Vexillar announced, is a hostage rescue on an unstable volcanic moon. Lieutenant Morrison will command. Jack stepped forward, conscious of the skeptical looks from most of his teammates. Only Draz seemed excited, and Lyra was watching with scientific interest. We'll split into 3 teams, Jack began, each with different entry points and backup plans. Backup plans? Interrupted Trill, the Cathal scout, her mandibles clicking. Why waste time planning for failure? It's not planning for failure, Jack said. It's planning for the unexpected. On Earth, we call it Murphy's Law. What is this Murphy's Law? Asked Zell, one of the telepathic twins. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong, Jack explained. So we prepare for when things don't go according to plan. This earned him confused looks from the aliens. Their advanced species had evolved to excel in specific environments. The idea that they should plan for their natural advantages to fail seemed absurd to them. The simulation began. A volcanic landscape formed around them, with a hostage compound in the distance. Jack's strategy was unorthodox by Confederation standards. Instead of relying on each species' strengths, he assigned roles that balanced the team and created redundancies. Halfway through the mission, the simulation threw in a surprise, a volcanic eruption that cut off the main assault team. In standard Confederation tactics, this would be a mission failure. Executing backup plan Delta, Jack called out. Draz, signal the diversion. Twins, fall back to position 3. Krav, you're with me. The squad hesitated but followed orders. To their surprise, Jack's backup plan worked. While the enemy focused on the diversion, Jack and Krav freed the hostages through an underground passage Jack had identified earlier as a potential escape route. When the simulation ended, the success indicators flashed green. A perfect score. Vexillar looked at the results with narrowed eyes. Interesting approach, Lieutenant. Different, not better, muttered Trill. Let's find out, said Vexillar. Computer, run simulation Alpha 9. The room transformed into a new scenario, an ambush situation that Jack had not prepared for. The squad was immediately under heavy fire from all sides. Standard formation, Vexillar ordered, taking back command. They moved into their practiced positions, with the naturally armored species in front and the more vulnerable ones behind. But Jack noticed something. The simulation enemies were targeting specific weaknesses of each alien species. Heat weapons against the cold-adapted Ceridian twins. Sonic attacks against Trill's sensitive antennae. They're using species-specific countermeasures, Jack shouted. Change tactics. But it was too late. In seconds, most of the squad was down. Only Jack and Draz remained, pinned behind a rock formation. What now, Lieutenant? Draz asked, his voice shaking. Jack looked around, thinking fast. We improvise. He grabbed debris from the battlefield, a broken weapon, pieces of armor, and constructed a makeshift shield. Then he showed Draz how to create a simple pulley system using their equipment. On my mark, launch these smoke canisters, Jack instructed. Then we move low and fast to that position. Draz followed the plan. The smoke provided cover as they flanked the enemy position. Using unconventional tactics and makeshift weapons, they managed to complete the mission objective. When the simulation ended, the squad was silent. How did you do that? Asked Krav finally. Those weapons were specifically designed to target our weaknesses. Humans don't have special abilities to target, Jack explained. We've always had to adapt to threats stronger than ourselves. We call it improvisation. Sergeant Lyra floated closer. This improvisation, it is a human strength? It's a necessity, Jack replied. When you can't outrun, outfight, or outsense your opponent, you outthink them. Over the next week, Jack ran more training sessions. Some of the squad began to show interest in his methods. Draz eagerly learned human techniques. Even Krav admitted that having backup plans wasn't completely useless. Then the real test came. The squad was assigned to escort a high-ranking diplomatic envoy through a contested sector of space. Standard mission, Vexlar told them in the briefing room. We will follow Protocol 7 for maximum security. With respect, Commander, Jack said. I've been studying the intelligence reports. This route takes us near the Davari Expanse. What of it? The Davari have been unusually quiet lately, and this envoy has information valuable to them. Vexlar's scales darkened slightly. Your concern is noted, Lieutenant, but the mission parameters are set by command. As they boarded the diplomatic vessel, Sergeant Lyra moved beside Jack. I have reviewed your assessment of the Davari situation, she said quietly. Your instincts warrant consideration. Perhaps you should prepare one of your backup plans. Jack nodded. Already working on it. He didn't know it then, but that backup plan would soon be the only thing standing between Vanguard Squad and complete disaster. The diplomatic vessel Celestial Journey moved smoothly through space. Its sleek silver hull reflected the distant stars as it carried its important passenger toward peace talks. Vanguard Squad was spread throughout the ship, each member at their assigned post. Jack Morrison stood at the viewport on the bridge watching the stars. Something felt wrong. The Davari Expanse loomed to their starboard side, a region of space filled with dust clouds and asteroid fields. Perfect for an ambush. You look troubled, Lieutenant, said Ambassador Nix, the envoy they were protecting. She was a tall, elegant Lumerian with pale skin that seemed to glow from within. Just being cautious, Ambassador, Jack replied. She smiled. Your species is known for that, always preparing for the worst. Sometimes the worst happens. As if triggered by his words, alarms blared across the ship. Red emergency lights flashed. Multiple vessels approaching, called out the ship's captain. Coming from within the Davari Expanse. Commander Vexlar's voice came through the comm system. All Vanguard members to battle stations. Protect the ambassador at all costs. Jack turned to Ambassador Nix. Ma'am, we need to get you to the safe room. She nodded and followed him as he led her through the corridors. They met Draz halfway. Lieutenant, 5 ships surrounding us. Not Davari design. The young Quillian's feathers were fluffed in agitation. Keep moving, Jack ordered. They reached the safe room where they found Sergeant Lyra waiting. The Belvary's energy form pulsed rapidly in her containment suit. The attackers are broadcasting on all frequencies, Lyra reported. They call themselves the Harbingers. Jack frowned. I've never heard of them. Nor has Confederation intelligence, said Lyra. They are using technology I have not seen before. The ship shuddered as weapons fire hit the shields. Jack activated the tactical display. The 5 enemy ships had surrounded them in a perfect pentagon formation, cutting off all escape routes. Get the ambassador secured, Jack said. I'm joining the defense team. Jack raced to the armory where the rest of Vanguard Squad was gearing up. Vexlar was issuing orders. Trill, you'll lead the counterattack on the port side. Your speed should. Another violent shake knocked everyone off balance. The lights flickered. They've breached the outer hull, Krav shouted, his forearms already holding weapons. How? Demanded Vexlar. Our shields should have held longer. The ship's intercom crackled. All personnel, the enemy has deployed some kind of dampening field. Ship systems failing. Weapons offline. Jack grabbed his gear. Let's move. Standard defense formation. They rushed to meet the boarders. The first attackers were already entering through a breach in the cargo bay. They wore black armor with glowing red lines. Their helmets completely covered their faces. Trill moved first, using her incredible Cathal speed to flank the intruders. But something strange happened. As she approached them, she suddenly slowed down, moving no faster than a human would. My speed, she cried out. Something's wrong. The telepathic twins tried next. We cannot sense them, Zell called out in panic. Our abilities are blocked. One by one, each alien member of Vanguard Squad found their special abilities neutralized. Krav's extra arms became sluggish. Lyra's energy-based attacks fizzled out before reaching the enemy. The Harbingers advanced methodically, their weapons firing strange pulses that seemed calibrated differently for each species they encountered. Fall back, Vexlar ordered. Once sounding uncertain, they retreated down the corridor, taking cover where they could. The enemies kept coming. They knew exactly how to counter each of our abilities, gasped Draz, nursing a wound on his wing. Jack's mind raced. The enemy had planned for every alien species in the squad, but they hadn't seemed to have any special countermeasures for him, perhaps because humans were considered too unremarkable to bother with. I have an idea, Jack said. Cover me. What are you doing? Demanded Vexlar. Improvising, Jack replied. He grabbed a maintenance panel from the wall and held it in front of him like a shield. Then he took a deep breath and charged directly at the advancing enemies. The Harbingers fired at him. Their weapons struck Jack's makeshift shield. The impacts hurt, but none of their specialized weapons seemed designed to stop a plain human. Jack slammed into the first enemy, knocking him down. He grabbed the fallen Harbinger's weapon and fired at the ceiling above the others. Debris fell, temporarily blocking their advance. This way, Jack shouted to his squad. We need to reach the ambassador. They fought their way back to the safe room, using Jack's improvised tactics rather than their usual sophisticated maneuvers. When they arrived, they found more Harbingers already trying to break in. Protect the ambassador, Vexlar ordered, his reptilian features tight with pain from a wound in his side. The squad engaged the enemies, but they were outmatched without their special abilities. Jack saw Krav take a hit and go down. Trill was cornered by two attackers. Jack didn't hesitate. He jumped between Trill and her attackers, taking a blast directly to his chest. The impact threw him against the wall and pain exploded through his body, but he got back up. How are you still fighting? One of the Harbingers asked, voice distorted through their helmet. Jack didn't answer. He tackled the speaker, using his own body as a weapon when all else failed. The other squad members stared in shock as Jack, despite his injuries, continued to fight. Finally, they secured the corridor. Jack stumbled to the safe room door, blood seeping through his uniform. Open. Up, he called. It's Morrison. The door slid open. Ambassador Nix and Lyra were inside, both unharmed. The human saved us, Trill said, her mandibles clicking in what might have been admiration. Vexlar approached Jack. You're injured. Jack looked down at his wounds and shrugged. I'll live. A Zorvan would be unconscious with such injuries, Vexlar noted. How do you continue? Adrenaline, pain suppression. It's just how humans are built. Jack winced as he spoke. We need to get to the escape pods before they bring in reinforcements. The main path is blocked, said Draz. We're trapped. Jack shook his head. There's always another way. Remember my backup plan? Understanding dawned on Lyra's features. The maintenance tunnels. Exactly. They're too small for their armored troops. We can make it to the auxiliary shuttle bay. Vexlar looked skeptical but nodded. Lead the way, Lieutenant. Jack guided them through narrow maintenance passages. He went first, despite his injuries, checking for dangers before signaling the others to follow. The ambassador watched him, with curious eyes. You bleed so easily, she observed, yet you place yourself in front. That's the job, Jack replied simply. They reached the auxiliary bay only to find the shuttles damaged. The Harbingers had been thorough. Now what? Asked Krav, supporting an injured Zell. Jack looked around the bay and spotted a mining vessel attached to the outer dock. That craft. It's ugly, but it'll fly. It has no weapons, Vexlar pointed out. But it has a reinforced hull for asteroid fields, Jack countered. Sometimes surviving is enough. As they boarded the mining vessel, more Harbingers discovered their location. Weapons fire filled the bay. Go! Jack shouted, positioning himself in the doorway to cover their retreat. He took another hit to his already wounded body but remained standing. The last thing Vexillar saw before the mining vessel's door closed was Jack Morrison, the fragile human, standing firm against the attackers as blood ran down his uniform. For the first time, the Zorvan commander wondered if his understanding of humans had been entirely wrong. The mining vessel shuddered as it pushed away from the diplomatic ship. Inside, the surviving members of Vanguard Squad and Ambassador Nix braced themselves against the walls. Draz piloted the ungainly craft, his feathered hands moving quickly over the controls. "Jack is still on board," Draz said, his voice tight with worry. Vexillar, wounded but conscious, looked out the viewport. The diplomatic vessel grew smaller behind them, enemy ships still attached to its hull like parasites. "We cannot go back," the commander said, though his tone carried unusual regret. The human knew what he was doing. Sergeant Lyra's containment suit pulsed with dim light. Lieutenant Morrison's last transmission indicated he would try to reach the secondary escape pod. "If anyone could make it out, it would be him," said Trill, who was tending to the wounded twins. Krav, using only 2 of his forearms due to injury, monitored the scanners. Multiple vessels still in pursuit. "Our engines can't outrun them." Ambassador Nix stepped forward. "There is an abandoned mining facility on the 4th moon of the gas giant ahead. We could seek shelter there until rescue arrives." "The Harbingers will find us," Vexillar said. "Not if we run silent in the moon's magnetic field," Draz suggested. "I can get us there." The young Quillian piloted the vessel toward the looming gas giant and its collection of moons. The mining vessel, designed for such environments, moved with surprising grace through the gas giant's outer atmosphere, using it as cover. They landed on the dark side of the 4th moon, settling the craft in a deep crater. The abandoned mining facility was built into the side of a mountain, its entrance partially collapsed. "Atmosphere is thin but breathable with assistance," Krav reported. "Temperature far below optimal for most species." "We have no choice," Vexillar said. "Everyone suit up." They made their way from the vessel to the facility entrance. The wounded were helped by those who could still walk. Once inside, they found the main power systems dead, but emergency lighting still functioned in some areas. "This facility has been abandoned for decades," Ambassador Nix said, looking around at the dust-covered equipment. "We need to secure a defensive position," Vexillar ordered. "The Harbingers will find us eventually." But without their special abilities, the squad struggled. The Ceridian twins couldn't sense approaching dangers. Trill couldn't scout ahead at superhuman speeds. Lyra's energy form was weakened by the dampening technology the Harbingers had used. "We are not equipped for this kind of situation," Krav said, frustration evident in his voice. "Our training assumes our natural advantages. Then we adapt," came a voice from the darkness. Everyone turned. There, leaning against the wall, stood Jack Morrison. His uniform was torn and bloody. One arm hung uselessly at his side. But he was alive. "Morrison," Draz chirped in excitement. "How did you escape?" Jack limped forward, allowing Trill to help support him. "Use the confusion to reach an escape pod. Tracked your ion trail here." Vexillar approached him. "You should be dead, human." "Not the first time I've heard that," Jack replied with a weak smile. "Status report?" Despite Jack's rank being lower than Vexillar's, the commander found himself answering. "Communications jammed. No response from Confederation forces. Enemy ships in orbit, searching. Our abilities still suppressed by their technology." Jack nodded, processing the information. "Then we do this the human way." Over the next hours, Jack transformed the abandoned facility into a defensive position using principles from ancient human warfare. He instructed the squad on barricades, choke points, and simple traps that required no special abilities. "This is primitive," Trill complained as she helped move heavy equipment to block a corridor. "Sometimes primitive works when advanced fails," Jack replied. He winced as Draz bandaged his wounds. "The Harbingers expected to fight super-strong, super-fast mind-reading aliens, not regular people using mining equipment as weapons." Krav watched Jack with curiosity. "You continue to function despite severe injuries. How?" Jack thought about how to explain. Humans evolved as persistence hunters. We're not the strongest or fastest, but we can keep going when others give up. Pain is just a signal, and sometimes we can override it. Override your own body's warning system? Lyra asked, floating closer. Fascinating. We call it pushing through, Jack said. Adrenaline, shock, the runner's second wind, they're all ways humans keep going past our normal limits. Vexillar, recovering from his own injuries, observed from nearby. This explains much about your species' unlikely rise. As night fell on the moon, they detected the first Harbinger ships entering orbit. Soon after, landing craft descended. They've found us, Draz said, fear in his voice. Jack checked the defenses one last time. Remember the plan. No heroics. Support each other. Hit and move. Use the environment. The first attack came at dawn. Harbinger troops breached the outer doors but found themselves funneled into narrow corridors where their numbers meant little. The squad used the mining facility's layout to their advantage, attacking from hidden positions and retreating before the enemy could respond. During one fierce exchange, Krav found himself pinned down by enemy fire. Jack, despite his injuries, sprinted across open ground, drawing the enemy fire to himself. He was hit twice more but reached Krav and pulled him to safety. Why would you risk yourself for me? Krav asked as they huddled behind cover. Jack, breathing hard through the pain, simply said, Squad sticks together. When the Harbingers withdrew to regroup, the squad gathered in their central command area. Everyone watched as Jack checked the facility's old systems, looking for anything they could use. You took direct hits that would kill a Zorvan, Vexillar said to Jack. Yet you still fight. Humans don't give up easily, Jack replied. He pulled up an old map of the facility on a dusty console. Look here, the facility has a geothermal tap that runs deep into the moon's core. If we can restart it, we might be able to send a signal through the magnetic interference. The control room is on the other side of the complex, Lyra noted, past where the Harbingers are regrouping. Jack nodded. Which is why they won't expect us to go there. The squad prepared for their mission. As they distributed the limited weapons and supplies, Jack noticed something. When he moved, the others moved with him. When he took position, they positioned themselves behind him. Why are you using me as a shield? He asked when he realized what was happening. Trill's mandibles clicked. You keep getting up when hit. We've noticed you have unusual resilience, added Lyra. It is logical to position our most durable member at the point of greatest risk. Jack almost laughed despite the pain. The aliens who had once seen him as fragile now saw him as their living shield. Fine, he said. Just remember, if I go down, don't stop moving. The mission comes first. They moved out, Jack in the lead. As they approached the Harbinger position, he raised his hand, signaling the squad to halt. Ahead, he could see the enemy had set up a perfect ambush. They're learning, he whispered. Time for Plan B. Vexillar looked at him. What is Plan B? Jack grinned through his pain. Something completely unexpected. Jack led the squad through a narrow maintenance shaft that ran beneath the main corridors of the mining facility. The passage was tight, forcing even the slender Trill to crouch. For Krav, with his 4 arms, it was particularly uncomfortable. How did you know about this tunnel? Vexillar asked, his scaled body scraping against the walls. First thing I did when we arrived was look for the maintenance routes, Jack explained. Always have an escape route. They emerged in a storage room behind the Harbinger position. The squad could hear the enemy soldiers moving in the corridor. Outside, preparing for another assault on where they thought Vanguard squad was hiding. Jack gestured for silence, then pointed to the ceiling. Old pipes ran overhead carrying coolant that hadn't flowed in years. Jack whispered his plan to the others. That's insane, Krav said quietly. That's why it might work, Jack replied. He turned to Lyra. Can you still generate any energy bursts at all? The Belvari's containment suit pulsed dimly. Very small ones, not enough for weapons, but enough to create a spark. Lyra's light brightened slightly. Yes. Jack nodded. Good. Everyone get ready to run. Jack and Krav positioned themselves beneath the coolant pipes. On Jack's signal, they lifted their weapons and struck the pipes hard. The aged metal cracked, Stale coolant began to leak out. "Now, Lyra," Jack called. The Belvari released a small burst of energy. It wasn't much, but it was enough to ignite the flammable coolant. Fire exploded along the ceiling, spreading quickly through the pipes and into the corridor where the Harbingers waited. Alarms blared. The enemy soldiers scrambled in confusion as fire suppression systems activated, filling the area with foam. "Move!" Jack ordered. The squad rushed through the chaos. The Harbingers, caught by surprise, couldn't mount an effective defense. Jack took point, with the rest of the squad falling in behind him almost instinctively. When enemy fire came their way, it hit Jack first. He grunted with each impact but kept moving forward. They reached the control room for the geothermal tap. Inside, ancient machinery hummed softly. Jack went straight to the main console. "Draz, help me with this," he said. "The rest of you, secure the doors." As the young Quillian worked with Jack to restart the geothermal systems, the others created barricades using whatever they could find. Outside, they could hear the Harbingers regrouping. "They're coming," Trill warned. "Many of them." Jack didn't look up from his work. "Buy us 5 minutes." Vexler stepped forward. "You heard the lieutenant. Defend this position." The first Harbinger attack came moments later. They hit the main door with some kind of cutting beam. Vexlar and Krav took positions on either side, ready to engage. Trill and the twins found elevated positions for better firing angles. Jack noticed something interesting. All of them had positioned themselves so that if they needed to fall back, they would retreat to where he stood. They were using him as their rally point, their final line of defense. "Almost there," Draz chirped, his feathers ruffled with excitement. As the old machinery began to power up, the doors burst open. Harbingers poured in, weapons blazing. The squad fought back fiercely. Vexlar showed unexpected skill with improvised weapons. Krav used all 4 arms to throw debris at the attackers. But they were still outnumbered. "Fall back," Vexlar ordered. The squad retreated in good order, moving behind Jack, who had taken position at the center of the room. He fired steadily at the advancing enemies, ignoring the new wounds he was collecting. "Jack, the system is online," Draz called out. "Send the signal," Jack replied, still firing. Draz activated the geothermal tap. Deep below the moon's surface, massive energy surged. Upward. The facility shook as power flowed through long, dormant systems. A beacon activated, sending a powerful signal through the moon's magnetic field and out into space. But the signal did something else too. The energy surge created an electromagnetic pulse that washed over the control room. The Harbinger's weapons sputtered and died. More importantly, the dampening field that had suppressed the squad's abilities flickered and failed. Trill felt her speed return first. She became a blur of motion, disarming 3 Harbingers before they could blink. The Ceridian twins suddenly linked minds again, coordinating their attacks with perfect precision. Krav's forearms moved with renewed strength and dexterity. Lyra's containment suit glowed brilliantly as her energy form surged with power. She released a blast that knocked back 6 enemies at once. "Their technology is failing," she called out. Jack saw his opportunity. "Push them back, use your abilities." The tide of battle turned instantly. With their natural advantages restored, Vanguard Squad became the elite fighting force they were always meant to be. The Harbingers retreated, unprepared to face the aliens at full strength. In the midst of the fighting, Jack fell to one knee. Blood soaked his uniform from multiple wounds. The adrenaline that had kept him going was finally running out. His vision blurred. He felt someone lift him up. It was Vexlar. "Not now, human," the commander said. "No dying until the mission is complete." Jack managed a weak smile. "Wouldn't dream of it, sir." A new explosion rocked the facility. For a moment, Jack thought the Harbingers had returned with heavier weapons. Then he heard a familiar sound. Confederation assault ships. "Looks like someone heard our signal," Jack said. 3 hours later, Jack awoke in the medical bay of a Confederation cruiser. His wounds had been treated, regenerative gel accelerating the healing process. He tried to sit up but found his body too weak. "Lie still, Lieutenant," said a familiar voice. Ambassador Nick stood beside his bed. Behind her were the members of Vanguard Squad, all looking at him with expressions he couldn't quite read. "The mission?" Jack asked. "Complete," Nix replied. "Thanks to you and your squad." "The Harbingers?" "Retreated when our reinforcements arrived. We've learned they are a mercenary group hired by those who oppose the peace talks." Jack nodded, then looked at his teammates. "Everyone okay?" "We are intact," Vexillar said. "Unlike you." Jack tried to shrug but winced instead. "I'll heal." "Humans are remarkably resilient," Lyra observed. "Your body is already repairing damage that would kill most species." "Just stubborn, I guess," Jack said. Vexillar stepped forward. "The squad has something to say to you, Lieutenant Morrison." The commander looked uncomfortable, his scales shifting colors slightly. "We misjudged you. And your species. What we saw as weakness was simply different strength." Trill clicked her mandibles. "You kept fighting when logic said you should stop. You placed yourself in danger repeatedly to protect us," added Draz. "You found ways to succeed when all our superior abilities failed," Krav admitted. Jack was surprised by their words. "I just did my job." "No," Vexillar said firmly. "You showed us something new. Something valuable." 2 weeks later, Jack was cleared for duty. He walked into the USS Intrepid's training room to find Vanguard Squad waiting for him. They were arranged in a new formation he hadn't seen before. "What's this?" he asked. "We've been studying human military history," Lyra explained, "particularly your concept of a shield wall." Vexillar pointed to a position at the front center of the formation. "Your position, Lieutenant?" Jack raised an eyebrow. "You want the physically weakest member of the squad to take point?" "We want the most resilient member at our center," Vexillar corrected. "The one who keeps fighting no matter what. The one who adapts when plans fail." Jack looked at his teammates, his friends now, and saw genuine respect in their eyes. These powerful aliens, with all their natural gifts, had found value in human determination. "Besides," Draz added with a chirp that sounded like laughter, "you're the only one crazy enough to believe things will work out when everything goes wrong." Jack smiled and took his place at the front of the formation. Behind him, the most elite fighting unit in the Confederation stood ready, all of them positioned to fight alongside the only human in the unit, the one they now chose to take cover behind.